Means, and this is my expository speech about tanning beds. This is my audience.
I'm Jan, and I'm Carson's neighbor.
I'm Galen, I'm our local mechanic.
I'm Jackie, and I was a former babysitter.
I'm Patrick, family friend.
I'm Ann, and I'm a neighbor.
And I'm Jordan, and I'm her boyfriend.
Today I'm going to be talking about tanning beds and how they operate. I'm going to give you a little bit of information on the history, the advantages and disadvantages you can have from the tanning beds, and I'm going to touch a little bit on the cost. In some cities, tanning salons outnumber McDonald's and Starbucks combined. An average 30 million people tan per year, and 2 million Americans tan indoors every day, 70% of them being young women. I got that information from skincareprevention.org. Here's a little bit of background information on the first tanning beds and what they were supposedly used for. The first indoor tanning beds were invented in 1906. A company named Huros used the beds for curing diseases and other calcium deficiency disorders. They were said to help build stronger bones, so a lot of athletes used them. Tanning beds turned from medicinal to cosmetic with the help of German scientist Frederick Wolf. He had the theory that artificial light would increase athletic ability, so he had athletes tan in the beds to help them improve. Now that you know a little bit of the history, I'm going to explain how they actually work, but first I'm going to talk about the epidermis structure and function so that this will all make a little bit more sense later on. Your skin is made up of 3 layers: the epidermis, the dermis, and the subcutaneous tissue. The epidermis is the thinnest layer and the most superficial layer. It contains cells called keratinocytes, which continuously divide to replace skin lost through daily wear and tear, and I'll explain that a little bit more later as well. The deepest portion of the epidermis also contains cells called melanocytes, which produce a dark pigment called melanin. Next, I'll talk about how they actually work. Tanning beds attempt to stimulate the sun's rays using special light bulbs that emit UV radiation. There are 2 types of the UV light, UVA and UVB. Tanning beds mainly produce UVA light, and that's said to be better for your DNA than the UVB light. So tanning beds emit more UVA light than the UVB. However, according to World Health Organization, sunbeds have been manufactured that produce higher levels of UVB to mimic the solar spectrum and speed the tanning process. So in this case, the UVA light you would tan for, the maximum would be 20 minutes. In the UVB light, you might tan for 10, and you're going to have a way darker tan, but it's going to be a lot worse for you. While basking in the purple light for 10 to 20 minutes, the UV radiation is penetrating a few millimeters into your body to give you the healthy glow you're looking for. This does not cause damage to your organs other than the skin, but the use of UVB light may lead to higher risk of sunburn or skin cancer. It's difficult to determine a safe level of the UVB radiation since everybody's affected differently. People burn more easily than some other people, so it's just different for every person. Now we'll discuss the effects that the UV rays have on your skin. Melanin is produced in order to protect your body from the harmful effects of UV radiation. When the DNA in your cells is hit with too much UV radiation, it can mutate and either cause the cell to stop functioning or to become cancerous. Then activated oxygen molecules are produced that also damage DNA along with your other cellular structures. The exposure leads to immune suppressions and activating the body's natural cancer defenses. I got that information from londonancestor.com. Melanocytes produce the pigment in response to UV light. Melanocytes are stored in capsules called melanosomes, which are stored in keratinocytes. Your skin appears more tan when more melanosomes are stored in more keratinocytes. Melanoma is a tumor of melanin-forming cells, typically a malignant tumor associated with skin cancer. And this is a common result of indoor tanning. It's present as a dark mole-like spot that spreads, and unlike a mole, it has an irregular border. Melanoma may be inherited. Overexposure to the sun or sunburns increase your risk. Your risk of melanoma increases 75% when you use tanning beds before the age of 35. Not only are tanning bed users more vulnerable to melanoma, they are also 2.5 times more likely to be diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma and and 1.5 more times to be susceptible to basal cell carcinoma. There are 4 types of melanoma. The first one is acrolentiginous melanoma, and this is a picture. It's most common in non-whites. It starts as an irregular and large black flat spot, most often found on the palm and sole. The next is lentigo maligna melanoma. It's the slowest growing type. It starts as a patch of mottled pigmentation that is dark, tan, or black on sun-exposed skin, such as the face. The next one is nodular melanoma. It's usually present as a raised, distinct, bluish-black tumor that may be encircled by particularly pale skin, most often in middle-aged or older adults. And the 4th type is superficial spreading. It's most common in whites. It's typically present as a raised, irregular colored area that starts in a mole-like shape but spreads across the skin. After learning the harsh effects about melanoma, you might not believe that it does have some advantages. UVB rays emitted by the sun at home tanning beds, which is supposed to be the most dangerous kind of rays, but they also emit vitamin D, which is typically hard to find by just eating through your regular diet. Vitamin D helps the absorption of serotonin in your brain, which affects moods and can cause depression, and this is why seasonal depression exists. This also explains why there is a higher instance of depression in areas that have low amounts of UVB rays, such as the northern states, rainy states, and polluted cities. There is some evidence that also suggests it helps prevent colon cancer, prostate, and breast cancer. I've gathered a little bit of information of the cost of indoor tanning. It's hard to find an accurate number because different places charge more and charge less. Just depends. So this is just kind of a ballpark estimate. 10% of Americans spend an average of $300 per year to tan indoors. That adds up to be $9 billion per year, not including $3 billion worth of products such as the goggles and the lotion. And I got that from money.cnn.com. If a person wanted to purchase their own tanning bed, it could cost anywhere from $1,200 to $6,000, depending on how many bulbs you want and the brand of the tanning bed. During my speech, I explained to you how tanning beds came about, how they work to give you your desired tan, the good and the bad effects that you can have, and the cost. I hope you learned some helpful facts throughout my speech that will further your knowledge on indoor tanning. Everybody has their own opinions on tanning beds. I personally like tanning. I know it's not good for me, but it gives me more confidence, and it's also a pretty good stress reliever. Other people may disagree because of the negative effects it can give you. It's just kind of up to you. And that concludes my speech. Does anybody have any questions?